You can fast perfectly, but if your gut microbiome is broken, your body will resist fat loss. I see this all the time. People restrict calories, extend their fasting window, and yet the weight doesn't shift. Why? Because the gut microbiome controls how efficiently you burn fat, balance blood sugar, and switch into ketosis. If that internal ecosystem is damaged, fasting becomes an uphill struggle. The gut microbiome is like your body's control center for metabolism. These microbes ferment fiber into short-chain fatty acids, the very molecules that signal your body to burn stored fat for fuel. But if you've had antibiotics, processed foods, or chronic stress, those beneficial bacteria are depleted. When that happens, fasting no longer triggers clean energy production. It triggers inflammation and fatigue instead. Think of it this way: fasting is supposed to be a metabolic rest. But if your gut lining is leaky and the microbiome is imbalanced, toxins leak into the bloodstream, keeping cortisol high and insulin resistant. The body stays in store fat mode rather than burn fat mode. So instead of feeling sharper and leaner, you feel drained, bloated, and stuck. Science confirms this. Studies show that a diverse microbiome improves fasting results by supporting mitochondrial function and reducing inflammation. When the gut flora thrive, fasting works as nature intended. You produce more ketones, regulate appetite hormones like ghrelin and leptin, and actually enjoy metabolic flexibility. So before you worry about your fasting window, fix the terrain, heal the gut first, then fasting becomes effortless. In the next section, we'll explore exactly how the gut and fasting are connected, and why restoring your microbiome is the real key to unlocking fat loss. When people talk about fasting, they usually focus on when to eat and when not to eat. But the real question should be, what's happening inside the gut during that fasting window? Because fasting doesn't just depend on willpower or timing. It depends on the health of your gut microbiome. Those trillions of bacteria lining your intestines are the conductors of your metabolic orchestra. They regulate how your body handles blood sugar, stores energy, and manages inflammation. The same systems fasting is supposed to optimize. A healthy gut microbiome supports fasting in several powerful ways. When your gut bacteria balance, they produce compounds called short-chain fatty acids, like butyrate, propionate, and acetate. These molecules act as fuel for your colon cells and as metabolic signals for your entire body. Butyrate, for instance, improves insulin sensitivity, lowers inflammation, and enhances fat oxidation. In other words, your bacteria are helping you burn fat even while you're not eating. This is why people with a diverse, stable microbiome often feel clear-headed and energized during a fast. Their gut ecosystem is feeding their metabolism from within. Now, contrast that with what happens when the microbiome is unhealthy, a state called dysbiosis. If your gut has been damaged by antibiotics, processed foods, or chronic stress, the good bacteria decline while harmful microbes thrive. These bad bacteria produce endotoxins that irritate the gut lining and leak into the bloodstream. The immune system responds with low-grade inflammation, which disrupts insulin signaling and increases cortisol. When cortisol rises, blood sugar spikes, and your body switches from fat burning to fat storing mode. That's why some people feel shaky, anxious, or ravenously hungry when they try fasting. Their gut bacteria are sabotaging the process. A healthy microbiome also influences appetite control. Certain gut bacteria help regulate the hormones ghrelin and leptin, the ones that tell your brain when you're hungry or full. When the microbiome is balanced, these signals are accurate and fasting feels natural. But when dysbiosis takes over, ghrelin stays high, leptin sensitivity drops, and you crave sugar or carbs during your fasting window. The cravings aren't a sign of weak willpower. They're microbial distress calls. Your gut bugs are demanding quick fuel because they can't efficiently extract energy from stored fat. Fasting and the microbiome also interact through bile acids, the digestive fluids that help break down fat. Healthy gut bacteria convert bile acids into signaling molecules that enhance fat metabolism and reduce inflammation in the liver. If the microbiome is imbalanced, this bile acid recycling process breaks down, leading to sluggish digestion and poor fat clearance. This is why people with gut issues often complain of bloating, nausea, or fatigue when they attempt longer fasts. Their internal chemistry simply isn't optimized for metabolic efficiency. There's another important link between gut bacteria and fasting benefits mitochondrial function. The mitochondria are the energy factories in your cells, and they rely on microbial metabolites for fuel and protection. Butyrate and other short-chain fatty acids enhance mitochondrial performance, allowing your cells to generate clean energy from fat. In dysbiosis, those compounds are scarce and mitochondria struggle, leading to fatigue, brain fog, and reduced metabolic flexibility. So while fasting is meant to rejuvenate your mitochondria, it only works if the gut microbiome is healthy enough to support them. Studies consistently show that people with a robust, diverse microbiome experience better fasting results, more stable blood sugar, improved energy, and reduced inflammation. Researchers have found that fasting itself can help rebalance the microbiome, but only if the foundation isn't already severely damaged. When the gut is leaky or inflamed, fasting can actually worsen microbial imbalance because the stress of fasting without microbial support pushes the body into cortisol dominance. So the relationship is symbiotic. Fasting can help reset the gut, but only a healthy gut allows fasting to deliver its full metabolic rewards. If your microbiome is strong, fasting feels like a smooth metabolic switch. Your body glides into fat, burning, your appetite quiets, and your focus sharpens. But if your microbiome is broken, fasting feels like a fight, with energy crashes, cravings, and poor results. The gut dictates whether fasting becomes a healing tool or just another stressor. The take-home message is simple: the state of your microbiome determines how well fasting works for you. These gut bacteria are not passive passengers. They are the active engineers of your metabolism. If you want to unlock the true benefits of fasting, you must first restore your microbial health. Because a thriving microbiome doesn't resist fasting, it amplifies it, turning every fast into a metabolic tune-up instead of a battle against your biology. You can be following the perfect fasting schedule, 16-8, 18-6, but even 24-hour fasts. But if your microbiome is imbalanced, your body simply won't respond the way it should. The signs are often hiding in plain sight: bloating after meals, uncontrollable sugar cravings, energy crashes, and stubborn belly fat that refuses to shift. These aren't random symptoms. They're your gut's way of signaling that your internal ecosystem is damaged. And when that microbial balance is off, every effort to burn fat, stabilize blood sugar, or enter ketosis gets blocked at the source. Bloating is one of the first red flags. A healthy gut breaks down food efficiently, producing minimal gas. But when harmful bacteria overgrow, they ferment carbohydrates excessively, releasing hydrogen and methane gases. That's why you feel swollen or distended, even after small meals. This constant fermentation irritates the gut lining, leading to low-grade inflammation and leaky gut. Once that barrier is compromised, toxins and undigested food particles enter the bloodstream, triggering immune responses that keep cortisol high and fat loss low. Fasting is meant to calm inflammation. But if your microbiome is inflamed, fasting can feel harder, not easier. Sugar cravings are another classic sign of poor gut health. Certain gut bacteria actually feed on glucose, and when they dominate, they manipulate your cravings. These microbes release signaling molecules that increase your desire for sweets and refined carbs. It's not a lack of willpower, it's microbial hijacking. During fasting, these sugar-hungry microbes panic, sending intense cravings to your brain. This makes it almost impossible to stay in a fat, burning state because you end up breaking your fast or overeating during the eating window. A balanced microbiome, on the other hand, thrives on fiber and resistant starches, helping to stabilize appetite hormones and reduce those constant hunger cues. Fatigue is another major clue that your microbiome is blocking fasting benefits. Healthy gut bacteria produce B vitamins, short-chain fatty acids, and antioxidants that support mitochondrial energy production. When those bacteria are depleted, energy output drops and fasting feels draining instead of energizing. Many people describe this as fasting burnout, that crash in the middle of a fast where you feel foggy and weak. But the real problem isn't the fast itself. It's the gut failing to supply the nutrients and signals your cells need to generate clean energy. Then there's stubborn belly fat, perhaps the most frustrating sign that your microbiome is out of balance. Dysbiosis triggers chronic inflammation and insulin resistance, two key blockers of fat burning. When the gut is inflamed, it releases endotoxins that travel through the bloodstream and disrupt insulin signaling. The body becomes less responsive to insulin, leading to higher blood sugar levels and more fat storage around the abdomen. Cortisol rises in response to internal stress, which further encourages visceral fat accumulation. You can fast for weeks, but if your microbiome is promoting inflammation and insulin resistance, your body will hold onto that fat as a survival mechanism. Digestive irregularities are another telltale sign. Alternating constipation and diarrhea, unpredictable bowel movements, or discomfort after eating. These reflect a disrupted microbial community that can no longer regulate digestion properly. When food isn't digested efficiently, nutrient absorption declines, metabolism slows, and the body's repair mechanisms are impaired. Fasting relies on efficient nutrient recycling and detoxification. A sluggish, imbalanced gut can't keep up, leaving you feeling tired, puffy, and metabolically stuck. Mood changes also indicate microbiome imbalance. Up to 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut, and when harmful bacteria dominate, neurotransmitter production plummets. You may notice irritability, anxiety, or low motivation during fasting periods. This mental fatigue often causes people to break their fast early, mistaking emotional distress for true hunger. A healthy microbiome supports mental clarity and emotional stability during fasting. A key reason why people with strong gut health often describe fasting as effortless and even uplifting. Another overlooked sign is frequent inflammation-related discomfort, joint stiffness, skin breakouts, or unexplained aches. These are systemic effects of leaky gut and circulating inflammatory molecules. They reflect that the immune system is in overdrive, consuming energy that should be directed toward metabolic repair. This chronic immune activation not only blocks fat loss, but also interferes with sleep, recovery, and hormone balance, all essential for fasting success. So if fasting isn't working for you despite doing everything right, look beyond the clock. Ask what your gut is trying to tell you. Bloating, cravings, fatigue, and stubborn fat are not normal responses. They are microbiome warning lights. Your gut bacteria control inflammation, insulin sensitivity, and energy production. When they're thriving, fasting becomes smooth, hunger stabilizes, and fat loss accelerates naturally. But when they're in chaos, fasting becomes a struggle against your own biology. Healing begins when you identify these signs and stop blaming yourself. It's not your willpower failing. It's your microbes crying out for balance. Once you restore that internal harmony, fasting transforms from a fight into a powerful healing rhythm that your body actually enjoys. Most people begin fasting to reset their metabolism, lose weight, or reduce inflammation, but very few realize that the success of fasting depends on the condition of their gut microbiome. If that internal ecosystem is already damaged, fasting doesn't heal, it can actually add more stress. The problem begins long before the fast itself, with the everyday habits that destroy microbial diversity and weaken gut integrity. Processed foods, sugar, antibiotics, chronic stress, and a lack of fiber are the main culprits. Each one erodes the balance of your gut bacteria, damages the gut lining, and ultimately sabotages the metabolic benefits fasting should deliver. Processed foods are one of the biggest enemies of gut health. They're stripped of fiber and loaded with emulsifiers, preservatives, and artificial sweeteners, all of which harm beneficial bacteria. These additives disrupt the mucus layer that protects the gut wall and encourage the growth of inflammatory microbes. When you eat this kind of food regularly, your microbiome becomes less diverse, meaning fewer species producing short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. Butyrate is the molecule that helps your body switch from burning sugar to burning fat during fasting. Without it, fasting becomes uncomfortable. Blood sugar fluctuates and the body resists entering ketosis. So even if you're fasting correctly, a processed food damaged microbiome limits your ability to reap those metabolic rewards. Sugar is equally destructive. When you consume excess sugar or refined carbs, you feed the wrong microbes, yeast and pathogenic bacteria that thrive on glucose. These microbes crowd out the beneficial species that produce anti-inflammatory compounds. The result is dysbiosis, where harmful bacteria dominate and release endotoxins that damage the intestinal wall. Once the gut becomes leaky, those endotoxins pass into the bloodstream, triggering systemic inflammation. This inflammation elevates cortisol and disrupts insulin signaling, two key mechanisms fasting relies on for fat burning. In this state, fasting doesn't trigger fat loss, it triggers stress. You might notice irritability, fatigue, or strong cravings midway through a fast. That's not normal fasting discomfort. It's microbial imbalance amplifying your body's stress response. Antibiotics are another major factor behind microbiome damage. While they can be life-saving when used appropriately, they don't discriminate between harmful and helpful bacteria. A single course of antibiotics can wipe out large populations of beneficial microbes, sometimes for months. This creates an open field for opportunistic bacteria and yeast to colonize, leading to long-term dysbiosis. When you attempt fasting after antibiotic use, the lack of microbial diversity means your gut produces fewer beneficial metabolites. Energy metabolism slows, and your mitochondria, the powerhouses of your cells, receive less support. You may feel sluggish, bloated, or lightheaded during fasting because the microbes that usually supply clean energy are missing. Chronic stress also plays a major role in damaging the gut. High cortisol levels alter gut motility and reduce blood flow to the intestines, creating an environment that favors pathogenic bacteria. Stress also lowers the production of stomach acid and digestive enzymes, meaning food isn't properly broken down before reaching the gut. Undigested food particles become fuel for the wrong microbes, further worsening imbalance. During fasting, stress acts as a double-edged sword. It not only disrupts the microbiome, but also raises blood sugar and insulin, effectively blocking fat burning. The combination of an inflamed gut and elevated stress hormones turns fasting into a metabolic tug of war rather than a rejuvenating reset. A lack of dietary fiber is perhaps the slowest but most significant cause of microbiome decline. Fiber is the primary food source for beneficial bacteria. It allows them to produce short-chain fatty acids that repair the gut lining and regulate metabolism. Most modern diets provide far too little of it. Without enough fiber, beneficial microbes starve and die off, while inflammatory species flourish. When fasting begins, the gut no longer has the metabolic flexibility to switch smoothly from glucose to fat. This leads to symptoms like brain fog, weakness, and hunger pangs, not because fasting is inherently harmful, but because the gut isn't equipped to handle the metabolic transition. All of these factors, processed foods, sugar, stress, antibiotics, and low fiber, eventually lead to a common outcome: gut permeability, also known as leaky gut. The gut barrier, which should selectively allow nutrients through while keeping toxins out, becomes porous. Endotoxins from bacterial cell walls slip into the bloodstream and activate the immune system. The result is chronic, low-grade inflammation that interferes with insulin signaling and mitochondrial function. From that point on, fasting doesn't stimulate fat burning. It provokes fatigue and hormonal imbalance. The body is too inflamed to access stored fat efficiently. This is why people often report feeling worse, not better, when they start fasting from a state of poor gut health. Their body interprets fasting as another stressor because the gut can't support metabolic balance. Repairing the microbiome first, through whole foods, fermented vegetables, fiber, and adequate rest, allows fasting to do what it's meant to do: heal, energize, and reset. Without that foundation, fasting becomes another metabolic challenge rather than a tool for renewal. Restoring the gut microbiome is the single most powerful way to make fasting easier, more effective, and more sustainable. Once you've cleared out the processed foods and sugars that damaged your gut, the next step is to nourish the beneficial bacteria that regulate your metabolism and immune system. The microbiome responds quickly to real food, fiber, and natural compounds. What you feed it today literally reshapes it tomorrow. To repair this inner ecosystem, you need to focus on prebiotics, polyphenol-rich foods, fermented foods, and gut healing staples like bone broth. Together, these strategies repopulate beneficial bacteria, reduce inflammation, and help your body shift smoothly into fat burning during fasting. Prebiotics are the foundation of microbiome repair. They are specialized plant fibers that feed the good bacteria already living in your gut. Think of them as fertilizer for your internal garden. Foods rich in prebiotics include garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus, Jerusalem artichokes, and green bananas. These fibers travel undigested through the upper digestive tract until they reach the colon, where bacteria ferment them into short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. Butyrate is the molecule that helps reduce inflammation, strengthen the gut lining, and improve insulin sensitivity, all essential for efficient fat metabolism during fasting. Without adequate probiotic intake, your gut bacteria starve, and fasting feels depleting instead of energizing. Polyphenol-rich foods come next. Polyphenols are natural plant compounds found in colorful fruits, vegetables, teas, and herbs. They're not just antioxidants, they're microbial modulators. When you eat blueberries, green tea, cacao, pomegranate, or olive oil, you're feeding bacteria that convert these compounds into powerful anti-inflammatory metabolites. These, in turn, calm the gut lining and enhance metabolic flexibility. Polyphenols also suppress the growth of harmful bacteria that produce endotoxins, which means less gut permeability and fewer blood sugar spikes during fasting. In essence, polyphenols make your microbiome resilient, helping your body handle fasting stress without triggering inflammation or cravings. Fermented foods are the next vital step. They contain live probiotic cultures that introduce beneficial bacteria directly into your system. Traditional foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, plain yogurt, miso, and kombucha are rich in lactobacillus and bifidobacterium species, microbes known to improve digestion, enhance nutrient absorption, and regulate immune function. When consumed regularly, they increase microbial diversity and crowd out pathogenic strains that contribute to bloating and inflammation. During fasting, these probiotic bacteria continue to support the gut lining and produce enzymes that make refeeding easier on the digestive system. People who include fermented foods in their diet often find fasting more comfortable because their microbiome helps stabilize energy and reduce hunger signals naturally. Bone broth is another deeply restorative food for the gut. It's rich in collagen, gelatin, glycine, and minerals that help repair the intestinal barrier. When the gut lining is damaged, as in leaky gut, toxins leak into the bloodstream, triggering systemic inflammation. The amino acids in bone broth tighten that barrier, reduce permeability, and soothe the digestive tract. This not only improves nutrient absorption, but also reduces the inflammatory load that can interfere with insulin sensitivity and fat burning. Sipping bone broth during fasting or in the refeeding window provides a gentle source of nourishment that supports gut healing without breaking the fast significantly. It's one of the most effective tools for restoring gut integrity while maintaining metabolic momentum. Beyond specific foods, daily habits play a major role in microbiome restoration. Sleep, movement, and stress management all influence microbial balance. Lack of sleep raises cortisol, which harms gut bacteria, while even moderate exercise increases microbial diversity and the production of beta-8. Stress, on the other hand, reduces blood flow to the intestines and alters the gut-brain axis, weakening the microbiome's ability to regulate appetite and mood during fasting. Simple routines like deep breathing, outdoor walks, and consistent sleep patterns help restore gut equilibrium. Timing also matters. The refeeding period after a fast is when your gut bacteria are most receptive to nutrients. This is the perfect time to include prebiotic fibers, fermented foods, and polyphenols to nourish the gut. Think of your first meal after fasting as an opportunity to repopulate your microbiome, not just to fill your stomach. A plate with leafy greens, cooked vegetables, olive oil, fermented veggies, and some healthy protein is ideal for rebuilding gut strength and keeping inflammation low. As your microbiome begins to recover, you'll notice fasting feels easier, energy becomes stable, hunger fades, and fat burning accelerates naturally. This happens because beneficial bacteria produce metabolic regulators that tell your body it's safe to burn stored fat rather than cling to it. They communicate directly with mitochondria, supporting cleaner energy production and improved hormone sensitivity. The microbiome and metabolism begin working together rather than against each other. Over time, consistency with these microbiomes supporting foods and habits transforms your fasting experience. Instead of fighting hunger or fatigue, you enter each fast with a calm, balanced system. The gut lining becomes stronger, inflammation drops, and insulin sensitivity improves, all key to long-term fat loss and metabolic health. When you feed your microbes properly, fasting becomes what it was meant to be, a natural partnership between your biology and your behavior, powered by a thriving inner ecosystem. When the gut is healthy, fasting becomes one of the most powerful healing tools available. But when the microbiome is imbalanced, fasting must be approached with precision. The goal isn't to push the body into longer fasts right away. It's to use fasting strategically to nurture microbial diversity, calm inflammation, and restore insulin sensitivity. When done correctly, fasting helps the gut repair itself while making fat burning effortless. Different fasting methods, from 16-8 to 72-hour protocols, each have unique benefits for microbiome health and metabolic reset. The 16-8 method, where you fast for 16 hours and eat within an 8-hour window, is the best starting point for most people with gut imbalances. This gentle rhythm allows the digestive system to rest without overwhelming it. During those fasting hours, gut bacteria begin to rebalance. Harmful microbes that thrive on constant feeding lose their advantage, while beneficial species that specialize in fiber fermentation and fat metabolism strengthen. This microbial shift improves gut barrier integrity, reduces gas and bloating, and primes the body for efficient nutrient absorption. The 16-8 pattern also stabilizes blood sugar and insulin, which lowers inflammation, a key condition for microbiome repair. If you have gut issues such as leaky gut or dysbiosis, this shorter fasting window provides recovery time without adding metabolic stress. Once the 16-8 rhythm feels natural, you can experiment with longer fasting windows such as 18-6 or even a 24 pattern where the body spends more time in repair mode. As fasting periods extend, the body increases production of short-chain fatty acids, especially butyrate. Butyrate fuels the cells lining your colon and acts as an anti-inflammatory signal to the immune system. This process strengthens gut resilience and enhances the communication between gut microbes and mitochondria, which are central to energy metabolism. The result is cleaner energy, fewer cravings, and improved mental clarity. For deeper healing and insulin reset, occasional 24-hour fasts can be transformative. During a 24-hour fast, the body activates autophagy, the cellular cleanup process that removes damaged proteins, old mitochondria, and dysfunctional cells. In the gut, autophagy helps regenerate the lining and reduce microbial overgrowth. It also improves immune regulation within the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, which is critical for controlling inflammation. These fasts encourage the growth of beneficial species like Akkermansia mucinifera, a bacterium known for strengthening the mucosal barrier and improving insulin sensitivity. By giving your digestive system a full day to rest, you allow your gut microbes to reset and rebalance, laying the groundwork for long-term fat loss and metabolic flexibility. However, extended fasts beyond 24 hours, such as 48 or 72-hour fasts, should only be introduced when gut health is already stable. During these longer fasts, the microbiome undergoes significant restructuring. Harmful bacteria are starved out, while beneficial species increase in relative abundance. Inflammation markers drop and insulin levels stabilize. The body becomes metabolically efficient, burning fat for energy while preserving lean tissue. But if you begin these fasts with poor gut health, the process can feel harsh. The sudden microbial die-off can release endotoxins, leading to fatigue, headaches, or gut discomfort, a phenomenon similar to a detox reaction. To prevent this, it's essential to prepare with nutrient-dense foods, adequate hydration, and prebiotic-rich meals before and after the fast. For those with compromised gut health, transitioning into fasting must be gradual. Start with a 12-hour overnight fast, simply finishing dinner earlier and delaying breakfast. Once your body adjusts, slowly extend the fasting window by 1 hour at a time. During this period, focus on supporting the microbiome through whole foods fiber from vegetables, polyphenols from berries and teas, and fermented foods like sauerkraut or kefir. Hydration is equally critical. Drink mineral-rich water or herbal teas to support electrolyte balance and digestive function. As the gut heals, fasting will begin to feel more natural. Hunger stabilizes, energy improves, and the body effortlessly shifts into fat burning. The beauty of fasting is that it doesn't just rest the digestive system, it actively repairs it. Research shows that fasting promotes microbial diversity by increasing the abundance of bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids and decreasing those associated with inflammation. These beneficial microbes, in turn, lower oxidative stress and improve insulin signaling. The improved insulin sensitivity allows for more stable blood sugar levels, which further reduces inflammation and fat storage. Over time, this creates a self-reinforcing cycle. A healthier microbiome supports better fasting, and better fasting strengthens the microbiome. To maximize results, pair fasting with gentle movement like walking or yoga. Physical activity stimulates gut motility and enhances the growth of beneficial bacteria. Avoid overtraining, especially during extended fasts, since excessive stress can elevate cortisol and undo much of fasting's metabolic benefit. Rest, light exercise, and sleep are just as crucial to gut restoration as the fasting window itself. As your microbiome becomes more diverse and your metabolism resets, fasting transforms from a difficult discipline into an energizing lifestyle. The body becomes metabolically flexible, able to switch between glucose and fat for fuel with ease. Cravings disappear, digestion improves, and inflammation fades. Whether you're practicing daily intermittent fasting or an occasional 24-hour reset, The key is to listen to your body and support your microbes at every step. When fasting and the microbiome work together, healing becomes effortless, the gut thrives, energy rises, and fat loss becomes a natural outcome of metabolic balance. When you finally repair your gut, fasting stops being a struggle and becomes a natural state of balance. Everything begins to click. Energy stabilizes, hunger calms, mental clarity returns, and fat loss happens almost effortlessly. The difference isn't in how long you fast or how few calories you eat. It's in how well your microbiome and metabolism cooperate. When your gut bacteria are thriving, fasting becomes the most efficient way to heal the body, balance hormones, and restore metabolic flexibility. A healthy microbiome transforms the way your body processes food and energy. Beneficial bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids that reduce inflammation, regulate insulin, and train your mitochondria to burn fat for fuel. They communicate with your hormones, ensuring cortisol, leptin, and ghrelin remain balanced, the perfect state for steady fat burning. The result is a body that's metabolically flexible, able to switch from using glucose to fat as needed without fatigue or cravings. You don't feel like you're fighting biology anymore. You feel like you're finally aligned with it. Once the gut is restored, inflammation, the silent cheer of fasting, drops dramatically. A leaky, inflamed gut keeps the immune system on high alert, blocking fat burning and triggering constant hunger. But when the gut lining heals and microbial diversity increases, the immune system calms down. That's when fasting feels smooth. Energy levels rise because your mitochondria are running on clean fuel, not bogged down by inflammatory waste. People often notice they can go longer without food, not because of discipline, but because their body isn't in crisis mode anymore. It's efficient, steady, and calm. Hormonal balance follows. When the microbiome is healthy, insulin sensitivity improves, which lowers fat storage. Cortisol normalizes, reducing the drive for comfort foods. Leptin and ghrelin, the hunger and fullness hormones, begin to communicate accurately again. You feel hungry when you actually need nourishment and satisfied after eating. That's how fasting should feel, intuitive, not forced. With hormones back in sync, the metabolism becomes stable and fat burning becomes your body's default mode, not a temporary trick. The visible transformation is just the surface of a deeper shift. Belly fat begins to melt, yes, but more importantly, brain fog clears, mood stabilizes, and sleep deepens. You stop riding the roller coaster of cravings and crashes. This is what happens when the gut-brain axis functions properly. The communication between your digestive tract and your nervous system becomes efficient and calm. You wake up with energy instead of fatigue, and fasting becomes a natural extension of how your body thrives, not a punishment for poor habits. When gut health and fasting are in harmony, you also gain resilience. The body no longer panics when you skip a meal because it trusts its ability to generate energy from stored fat. That's metabolic flexibility, the ultimate sign of a healthy system. You can glide through the day without thinking about food, yet still have clear focus and stable mood. The microbiome, now balanced and diverse, supports every organ system. The liver detoxifies more efficiently, the thyroid works more smoothly, and the immune system stops overreacting. You're no longer just managing health, you're building it. The long-term benefit is sustainability. Diets and quick fixes fail because they fight against your biology. Fasting paired with microbiome repair works because it restores your biology. Instead of restriction, you practice restoration. Each fast becomes a recalibration of your system, lowering inflammation, resetting hormones, and keeping the gut clean and strong. Over weeks and months, the results compound: steadier energy, better digestion, improved skin, sharper mind, and a leaner body that maintains itself effortlessly. The science is clear: gut health drives metabolism, and metabolism determines how your body responds to fasting. You can't separate the two. Trying to fast with a damaged gut is like driving a sports car with a clogged engine. It simply won't perform. But once you repair the gut, fasting becomes the accelerator for fat loss, longevity, and vitality. The two processes amplify each other in a feedback loop of healing. The better your gut gets, the easier fasting becomes. The easier fasting becomes, the stronger your gut grows. It's a simple equation: restore the gut and your body restores itself. This is not a quick fix, it's a biological truth. Fat loss is no longer about starving the body, but about nourishing the microbes that regulate it. When you support them with real food, sleep, movement, and time between meals, they reward you with clean energy, efficient metabolism, and stable health. The path to sustainable fat loss isn't through restriction, it's through rebuilding the foundation that runs everything, your gut microbiome. That's where fasting finally works as nature intended, restoring balance, burning fat, and renewing the body from the inside out.